My eye for talent remains unrivaled. You, Mr. Richards, are what they used to refer to as a game changer. Now listen, I shouldn't say this, but when the run begins, lay low with your own kind. You'll last longer. And also, in case you missed it in your contract, every goon you kill wins you a 10K bonus. And it's $100 per hunter.
I don't know how yet, but I am gonna you up someday.
That's the spirit.
And that's a clip from The Running Man, the new movie by the fabulous director Edgar Wright. Hello, Edgar. How are you?
Hey, Simon. Nice to see you
Did we choose that clip well? We don't know what the clip was. The clips are provided. Well, it's fantastic. Many people are just very excited to have a new Edgar Wright film.
Oh, thank you. That makes me happy.
It means something. And also they kind of feel as though they know that they're going to be, whatever you choose to do, people are going to be excited to watch it.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
So how far away do we have to go for the start of this story in terms of your engagement with The Running Man?
A long way back. It feels like sort of like, as soon as you say, well, I was 14 years old, some people are like, oh, God. But no, I mean, I started reading Stephen King when I was probably like 12. I always think he was sort of like...
too young.
And well, you know what's interesting? I always think about that is that because I was a sort of horror fan, or I wanted to be a horror fan, I was definitely intrigued. And I think the thing about Stephen King books is, for maybe if you're reading them when you're young, it's not the horror element that's like the sort of it's all of the other real world stuff that's the real eye opener. I think I felt like there's so much kind of grown up material that I read in Stephen King books, and under his pseudonym Richard Bachman as well,
because that was the name that he wrote under at the time.
Well, they were like, yes, and The Running Man was originally published under the pseudonym, so there were 4 novels, and then the 5th one, Thinner, is the one that got him rumbled. and so then they re-released the books under Stephen King. And that's when I read them. There was that compendium in the UK of the Bachman books.
Mine was The Stand. That was the first one
that
I picked up like a second-hand copy. But once you've started a Stephen King book, it's difficult to stop reading everything that he does.
Yes.
And there's something remarkable about Stephen King. He's probably on this podcast, the most talked about writer, bar none. And in terms of his stories making their way either onto the small screen or the big screen, I don't think there's anyone else. I mean, this year alone, we've done The Life of Chuck, The Long Run, and so on. So, sorry, The Long Walk, beg your pardon, I'm confusing it with your running.
That's eventually going to be a supercut of the 2 movies.
Okay.
They'll start with The Long Walk and they'll build into The Running Man.
And then The Life of Chuck comes in at the end of the world.
And The Monkey as well. Did we miss that one?
So okay, so you can we can keep on adding these titles in. So can you tie in what hooked you in as a 10-year-old to the Edgar Wright making a movie now? What is it about the Stephen King story that is still hooking us in now?
Well, I think in terms of, in terms of the amount of movies this year, it also speaks to how diverse he is as a writer. Because obviously Life of Chuck is very different from The Monkey and very different from The Running Man. And The Long Walk and The Running Man, even though they're both by Richard Bachman and they both are about dystopian game shows, are also 2 very different films. So I actually think it speaks to the sort of breadth of his work. I read somewhere, and I believe this is true, that he's the second most adapted author for the screen after Shakespeare.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
And then my connection, I read The Running Man when I was 14, and I read it before I saw the 1987 film adaptation with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is a very different beast to the book. And so even as a teenager watching that movie, even though I enjoyed it, I was like, this isn't like the book at all. And then that stuck in my head because I'm sure you do this as well, that when you read a book, you just visualize it. Mm-hmm. You've sort of made the movie in your head. And then when you see the other adaptation, it's not the movie that you had in your head. And I guess like in this year, I finally got to make the movie that was in my head when I read the book,
So who is The Running Man?
The Running Man is Ben Richards, played by Glenn Powell. And this is the other key thing about the original book and our adaptation, is he's not an existing sort of action hero like he is an out-of-work dad. The key thing to this is something that's from the novel is like, he is a man that's coming off the street to go to the network building and compete on one of their cruel game shows. Crucially, he doesn't want to do the Running Man. He wants to do one of the other ones and risk injury but not death. But he's an out-of-work dad. He's been blacklisted. He needs to provide for his family. His daughter is sick. And so out of desperation, he takes the long walk to the network building to compete, but gets more than he bargained for, ...
Yes. And did you know, was it in the back of your mind, the fact that the original book, is set in the year 2025 as a dystopian kind of scary year to think about? Was that part of the reason you've done this?
No, it was sort of a coincidence.
That's some coincidence.
No, I mean, I wasn't like the sort of, I mean, what's interesting is like, you know, I've never had this experience before as well. I've been working on it since 2021. About 4 years ago, one of the producers, Simon Kinberg, emailed me, knowing that I had an interest. I think I'd put it out in the ether in interviews that I had an interest in. It said, would you like to do a new adaptation of The Running Man? I was like, yes. You know, this is something I've thought about for a long time. It didn't really start gaining momentum until 2024 because there were the production strikes in 2023. And so Mike Ireland, who was the former head of Paramount, said, why, at the start of 2024, he sort of like kind of like basically kind of clapped his hands and said, why aren't we making The Running Man? We could be making it this year and have it out by the end of 2025. Now, he wasn't saying that because the book was set. I was the one who pointed it out later. Hey, you know, the book is set in 2025. So it is sort of a happy coincidence. And
it's quite a tight schedule.
It's definitely, I mean, I feel like I've set a terrible precedent for myself by turning this around in a year. However, I mean, I'm very happy that it's out in 2025. If they'd have said at some point, oh, you need a bit more time, we're going to bump it into 26, I'd be, no, it's right. Because you know the cover of the 1982 book, the first paperback, do you know what the log line says?
I don't.
Welcome to the year 2025, where the best men don't run for president, they run for their lives. The Running Man, Richard Bachman.
Wow.
Almost two on the nose.
Yes. and speaking of which, you know, in the film we see an authoritarian America where the gap between the rich and the poor is incredible. And we see early on people queuing for medicine. That seems to be the currency. No one can get the right meds. I mean, that's I mean, I was exhilarated by the film, but I was pretty depressed when I came out of it, you know, which was perhaps the right reaction.
Well, I mean, what's crazy about it is that the book was published in 1982, but he wrote it in 1972, and he couldn't get it published initially.
This is pre-Carrie, isn't it?
Pre-Carrie,
yeah.
When he was a struggling writer. He actually said to me, I asked him about it, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said it was a time when our kids were eating better than we were. You know, him and his wife was sort of struggling, and he sent The Running Man to a publisher, and they said, we don't do dystopian fiction. I was like, wait, isn't 1984 one of the most celebrated novels of all time? But the thing that's interesting about the book is that it's very, very prescient about a lot of things in media and technology. But what's also alarming, maybe depressing, is how little has changed. But his prediction of 2025 is like sort of very close to the bone. But then also in making this film, and you know, it is like hopefully an entertaining kind of action thriller, but also hopefully gives you something to chew on as well. And I feel like it's the best of genre fiction and sort of genre movies rather, but both, is to sort of hold a funhouse mirror up to reality. So, and that I hope is what we've done.
Yeah.